Welcome to Computer Repair Podcast, episode number 326. myki, Password Management Redefined. This is our live show where we discuss the ins and outs of running your computer repair business. Our show today is brought to you by BusyBench, the all-in-one management tool simplifying IT for computer repair businesses with a clean and simple interface. Spend more time running your business instead of learning your management software. For a free 14-day trial, just go to busybench.com. Use the offer code PODNUTS for 30% off the life of your account. And also by Untangle, next generation firewall, the best solution for bringing powerful network security to your clients in an easy to manage and cost-effective package. Untangle's partnership program helps repair shops add cybersecurity to their services and get up and running quickly. Get started today at untangle.com/podnuts. Let me introduce the co-hosts. We have John Dubinsky from the Maven Group. John, how you doing?
Jeff, I have you 5x5. Magazines are loaded, locked and loaded rifle. I'm ready to go. Let's do this.
Awesome, man. And also sitting across the table from him, we have the great Paco LeBron from Prodigy Techs. Paco, how's it going?
Better than good, better than most. How are you?
Awesome. And also our special guest today, we have Richard Daly from myki. Richard, how are you doing?
Very good, sir. Thank you for inviting me.
Nice to have you. And we're excited to learn about your product today. Before we get into that, let's go ahead and share a tip or story with us that we could learn from. And John, I'm going to kick it off to you because you always have a plethora of tips.
Well, Jeff, we'll try to keep it down to half the show today. So I have a story time with Johnny, a quick story really quick, and then a couple little tools that I used over the past week that I thought I would pass on. My quick story is over the last month, I've had two clients call me because they've had credit card fraud in their organization, and one to the extent of $80,000 and up. And upon doing our research and doing all that and working with the merchant, it was determined that the terminals were hacked on the merchant side. So it has nothing to do with us, nothing to do with our network, but literally the Ingenico terminals. And Ingenico is kind of a white label brand. So if you turn your terminal over where you swipe your card or dip your card, it probably says Verifone or something like that, but they make a ton of different brands. I guess there's a big stink in the industry right now where a lot of those terminals are hackable so that the merchant account can be hacked. And then again, the bad guys are now smart enough that they're not just saying, okay, I'll take $80,000. They dribble it out over time. So it just looks like merchant charges.
Wow.
So, and I had two in my small little world. So I just thought it was an interesting story and maybe something. I've been looking for links or information on it. I might put something in the CRP group just with the information I have from dealing with one of the merchants, just to give everybody a heads up. But I thought that was interesting. My second little tip of the week is just a little, maybe some helper links when you're dealing with your UTM or your security software, to the fact that one, either you're trying to open a port to allow stuff in, or maybe some sites or something are being blocked and you need to figure out what's going on. So the first tool I think I mentioned before, if you're trying to open a port and you need to verify that that port is open, there's a great little tool called the Open Port Checker. It's a little website. You put in your static IP address, the port you want to test, and it will tell you if that port is open or closed. Very simple. Keep in mind, it's also a good way to check that your ports are closed as well. And then second is maybe your UTM or something is blocking a website. Maybe it's a site you've never heard of, and you want to figure out why. So the first site I usually go to is called Categorify, spelled like it sounds.
Say that three times fast.
Categorify. So if you jump on Categorify, drop in the URL of the site that's being blocked. It will give you a reason why. And they reference back and look at all sorts of other sites that do reputation monitoring for sites or maliciousness for sites like Fish Tank and other things. And then there's another URL I'll drop in the link that has a list of about 30 other sites that do similar or other things, free online tools for looking at potentially malicious websites. So just a couple tools that might make your investigation or your discovery for your cybersecurity issues a little bit easier.
Very cool. Great bag of tools again, John.
Back to you, Jeff.
Appreciate that. And Paco, what do you have for us this week?
I have a story for you. So,
Story time with Uncle Paco.
I want to say Uncle Paco. Let's say Theo Paco, because Uncle sounds like I'm trademarking someone else on this network. But anyway, so I was tasked with a cutover from a previous ISP to Comcast for a law firm of mine. They had I forgot who it was. I think it's Megapath, which is now Fusion, but they've had them for so many years that they were on less than DSL, like a meg and a half up.
Oh,
Kind of so like we had this whole thing where we were going to upgrade all their workstations, download all the updates, get them to Windows 10. And that kind of abrupted us to, after 8 hours and only 3 machines down, we decided to put a hold and go into switching ISPs. Well, we go in now. It was a huge issue with scheduling and Comcast coming in late and, the whole stories that everyone hears, right? So after after the appointment that I blocked off, they came in, they installed all the cabling, they put all, because they're getting internet and VoIP. They put all the stuff in there, everything's good to go. I come in that Monday, we're going to cut everybody over from Megapath to Comcast, rock and roll. We're going to do some upgrades, call it a day. Well, first time I show up, I'm not getting any internet from my Fluke and from my Link Sprinter and from my laptop. Now, the weird part was, which it should have triggered, but I didn't think about it. I can get to some sites, but not all. I couldn't figure out what was going on. Called Comcast, see what was going on. There's a confirmed outage in the area. There's nothing we can do. I was like, okay, sure. I, put on speaker, let the office manager know. I'm like, look, until they clear it up, then, it's not much we can do. I'm out for the rest of the week. We got to wait till the following week. Come back the following week. Same thing again happens. Same exact issue. We call over, still don't know what's going on. There's no outages. Come to find out that, yeah, we don't know what's going on. We got to send a tech out. It's like, okay, sure. So, of course, it's between times that I'm unavailable because I have another appointment. They come back. Tech replaces the box. He says, yeah, I have no idea what's going on. I was like, Jesus Christ. So I go ahead and see, call support again. They're like, yeah, something looks weird here. Let me go ahead and get back with you. Yeah, here's the problem. They gave you a reused static IP. So because that IP address obviously was taken, was the back and forth of that traffic. So they gave us a new IP. We were good to go. Then it's rescheduled again for the next time. Now, the next time was even more fun because I wasn't there for the install. Now, what they have, and basically the moral of the story I'll get to, is they have this shelving with all this cable thrown around, 2 different ISP vendors, patch panel, the whole, and it was a mess. So come to find out, as we're kind of figuring everything out, that there's their VoIP system is run off of a box, an Edgemark Edgewater, which is Edgewater 450 or something like that. But I've seen that same box with Megapath. So me assuming that it was the other ISP, what the hell is this going on here? So I go ahead and start plugging everything over. Their VoIP obviously goes down. Long story short, as we go ahead and figure everything out, it turns out that now they have 3 boxes set up for VoIP, but the other piece of what was causing such a confusion is that everyone was still online. After literally moving the case and separating the wires, it turns out that the Comcast tech ran 8 different drops for the phones and left the Megapath drops alone. So they were all tangled and everything like that. So now everything made sense. It's, moved everything, plugged it in. Everything looked like it was good. Well, it turns out that this stupid Edgewater device is also on DHCP handing out IP addresses instead of the server to being able to hand it out.
Right.
So, of course, I had my good friend John on standby because I had to call I was like, I don't know what the heck is going on here because this one thing is not getting online. I can't get online. He's like, yeah, there's something going on. So the steps we did was we saw that we were getting a 192 address. The Comcast IP was giving out a 10 dot address. We ran a scanner, figured out what is the MAC address that is to that IP address, Googled the MAC address, found out that it was the Edgewater. Then we just realized we just needed to make sure everything was on a static IP. Everything looked good. The HP printer was getting an IP address from this Edgewater as well. Good thing I had all Snap AV gear. went into the Overseer, logged into directly to the printer because it had the Overseer Pro in that 310 router model that I have, assigned the original static IP. Everything was good. Long story short, the moral of this story is as you're going on and you're about to figure out what you're doing for your network, label, organize, and really identify what you got in front of you, because even though it's a mess, you're going to have to go through that mess. You want to go through it once and have everything documented versus trying to figure it out as you go along and make a longer day even longer because you didn't go through what you should have done in the first place.
That's a good point, and it's always easier to do it ahead of time, even though it takes much more time to get it done than to wait. But now you were walking into somebody else's problem, though, right?
Yes and no. So basically what happened is they're a break fix client. So what happened was they were a break fix client. So we don't manage a lot of their network. So when they had planned on doing this, but this was 3 years in the making. So this was just something that we finally got to, and I've wanted to rearrange this, but just never had the time and chance. This was the time and chance to do.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that is a good point. And it doesn't matter. It's always easier, even if you only had a few drops, to start in the beginning where you're labeling that stuff. So as you're adding stuff in, it makes your life a lot easier down the road. Oh, good story, man. All right. And Richard, do you have anything that you would like any tip or trick or little story you'd like to share this week?
Well, one that I had recently from a prospect, an MSP, where a client of his had been breached, and it was weak credentials, but it was credentials that the partner basically had set up a new system for the end user and told him your password is password 123. That needs to be changed within 24 hours. It's a temporary password. You need it changed. 2 years later, and that's how they got in, and it was the weak password. And he had it written down on email and everything. Look, I told you, 4 or 5 times over the last couple of, at that time I told you, and I reminded you again twice in like the next 2 weeks. And 2 years later, you're breached, and it's a weak credential. So just things like that. It's sometimes it's a lot of IT guys do their best, but if end users aren't taking heed, it can cause issues.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah, and that's the low-hanging fruit, and that's something that's easily that any of us can do, and probably should do. At least start about that. And one of those things we'll probably learn about today when we talk about your product. But before we do that, let's go ahead and talk about TechCon Unplugged. And TechCon Unplugged is bringing the IT community together. Join like-minded business owners for a weekend packed with resources to help your IT business thrive. Hear from experts and get one-on-one time with peers facing the same challenges you are on a daily basis. Walk away with concrete action items to take your business to the next level. It is September 20th through the 22nd, 2019 in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Go to techconunplugged.com. Tickets are $199. Hotel rooms, you can stay there for $102 a night. It is a very inexpensive IT business trip that you can write off, and tell you what, you're going to get a lot of information, and you're going to be able to rub shoulders with people that are doing the same things you're doing. And so that you're not out there all by yourself and all alone. We go to techconunplugged.com.
And one thing I want to highlight is, as the weeks go on, we're going to start kind of highlighting some of the vendors and sponsors and partners, I should say, that are going to be a part of this convention. And one of them is Freedom Voice. One of those and they're going to be going over of how do you get into VoIP? And a lot of us as MSPs, IT business owners, trying to figure out, how do I get into it? Who's the best provider? Who should I use? What are the gotchas that you're going to run into? This is going to be an informative session with our own Jason Miller, kind of explaining what he's done on adopting VoIP into his service offerings and how he's increased his bottom line with that service as well. And it's one of those where even this week, I've gone through some VoIP issues with another vendor and just thinking to myself that why am I even trying to get into this at all? And this is going to be a great session for those trying to figure out why you should get into it and how Freedom Voice is going to differentiate from some of the others on helping you get into VoIP as your own offering as an IT business.
Very well said. Thank you for that, Paco. All right, let's go ahead and talk about myki. And really, the premise is really what is password management? We've heard the term. We know that we probably should be doing some sort of password management, and yet there's things that get in the way. But before we do that, let's let Richard kind of tell his background story of how he got started and how he got to be a part of myki at this point in his career.
Thank you. So I've actually been in the channel for probably 15 years now. Some people will probably say it's too long, but before myki, I was actually with another MSP kind of focused vendor, Rapid Fire Tools. So I was there for 2 years, nearly 2 years. And then before that, I was with companies like Alien Vault and SolarWinds. So I know the kind of the IT management network space, security space. And then the last probably 5 years has been a focus on the MSP space. And some of the work that the MSPs do is just phenomenal. You know, the way you run your businesses, the automation, everything like that. So it's a space that I enjoy. You know, typically I end up speaking to a lot of business owners, and it's amazing the kind of, I suppose, the things that keep them awake at night. You know, and sometimes it's not just, you know, helping end users. It's, you know, it could be anything from just, you know, how do I run my business better, and even that, the events that you mentioned, some of them events can be really, really good because I noticed that MSP space, that peer-to-peer network within the MSPs is actually really strong. So the folks that help each other out and what have you, it's really good. You know, it's a good place to be in. So yeah, so myki, I came to myki in December 2018. And myki for MSP, if you look at our MSP offering and kind of channel offering, is actually only in the market since November 2018. So we're the new kid on the block as such. So getting an opportunity to talk to you today is actually really good. You know, we appreciate it, getting the word out. You know, I think, you know, with the kind of hacks and that hack threat vector, the fact that it's kind of widening every day, getting those foundations around password management, I think it's something we're giving the IT channel the tools to do it better. Because it's that weak area for a lot of your client sites at the moment. So doing it better is a good opportunity there for our MSPs. You know.
Very good. And so what would you say, if you were to explain in layman's terms so everybody could understand, what would you say is basic password management? Let's start there.
To be honest, you got to look at the landscape today. I mean, all of us here, you look down at your phone and you look at how many applications that you've got on your phone. And most of us are managing 50, 60 plus applications. And by default, human nature, we're not set up to manage passwords, we say, for login information for 50 or 60 or 70 different applications in our head. You know, so you've got the challenge where you've got Doris sitting in reception and somebody says, anybody know what the password to, you know, XYZ is? And Doris is pulling it off her screen and it's written on Post-it notes. And that's the way a lot of people still operate today. So that security, you know, we got to get better at that security side of it. And password management is just allowing you to facilitate managing multiple logins in a more seamless way. I think that's what it does front and foremost. It also gives you the facility to make your passwords more complex. And I think that's the bigger opportunity around password management, is making passwords longer and stronger. If you look at, you know, password 123456 has been breached. It's been in password 123456 has been in 23 million breaches over the last 3 years. You know, and I can share the link if people want to link the UK government for SME and small and medium-sized businesses. They've been doing a lot of research over the last couple of years. And 123456 is still the most deployed password globally. And you know, just the fact that it's still there and it's been breached, there's an opportunity. So if you make things longer and complex, hackers going to buy, you know, going to pass by. He's going to say, that's complex. Move on. They're looking for the easy stuff. The 123456 that they can get, they'll gather that up as much as they can, and then try and go further and hack it further. So I think that's the password management. It's just making it more complex. You know, being able to make your passwords more complex and just manage them in an automated and streamlined way.
Okay. So, John, let me ask you, when you talk about, or when you think about password management for your client base, what is that? How does that make you feel?
Hold on, let me take a drink. Well, I think as Richard mentioned at the beginning, there are not a lot of. Let me start back at the beginning. So if you hit back, if you hit up Wikipedia for a list of password managers or put in password managers, you're immediately going to get punched in the face with at least a list of 25 there. So I would suggest out in the market, there's probably at least 50 credible password manager choices. Maybe credible on that list is not the perfect word. I would say the big boy on the list is probably LastPass that we've all heard of. And then we have others that sort of play in that area. I think Paco initially told me about myki, I don't know, a couple months ago, Paco. I don't remember what conference you went to, or maybe Tom Wilmot is the one that started the chatter in the group about myki. And really, putting myki in the list of maybe the top 10 credible password managers, they move to the top of the MSP list as one of the few or one of the only ones that I know of that are multi-tenant, meaning allow you to individually manage your clients through the password manager and are built for that. I mean, there are some workarounds in LastPass where you can kind of do it. I use a product right now called Bitwarden, and I can kind of fudge it to do that. But myki is the one, when you look at their MSP page, that they give you a pure reselling environment, just like back to the old value-added reseller days. That terminology, if anybody is old enough as me to remember that, to be able to manage the reseller or resale experience and to manage the deployment of myki, which is extremely interested to somebody like me with as many users and endpoints as I manage. Which brings me back to your initial question, Jeff, as to why I have no hair. I mean, how managing passwords for clients, isn't that the initial question? The password management for clients, it took me to the hair thing. Yeah, there has to be a better solution to help clients manage passwords. One, not only for their sake, because in my opinion, it's probably one of the primary things to do to secure their data, secure their reputation and their information, is good passwords, not using the same password on every site, a strong password, that sort of thing. And then myki, along with some other services, but myki seems to really do a good job too on taking it to that next level with 2FA, which is very popular or profound and powerful as well. So I think, when I look at myki, I see two potential items there that are extremely interesting for MSPs like us.
Very well said. All right, Paco. So how many of your clients still have sticky notes on their computer monitors? For those that can't see
I
on
got it
video.
up because I just went into a client last week, and I went in there and I went to the server room, unlocked the server room, unlocked the cage, got in the server room, and then on the monitor with a couple pieces of Scotch tape on a sticky note is the password stuck right on the server. So I'm like, so I picked that off. So I thought that was funny.
So to answer your question, yes, quite a few. And it's, and I think other IT business owners probably can relate, because password management has always been such a sticky issue. It's either what's the right solution to introduce to them that's going to be easy for them to use, not as much of a change factor for them on what their manners are for storing passwords, whatever's easiest for them, their little book, post-it notes, sticky notes on the desktop, things like that. But the other side of that is for us to manage it. What is the right vendor for us to use? What can we do to make sure that it's being enforced? There's so many levels of passwords to be used. Then you go into the MFA conversation. How do we make sure that they're not only getting good passwords, but also putting in multi-factor authentication on their stuff? How do we allow them to kind of create this whole one solution that's easy for us? And lately, just as John had mentioned, there's so many of them that are out there that a lot of us are just kind of either fudging around with them to make it work for us, or we're just looking for the right solution to come around so that we can implement that. And not to mention margin as well for some of us who are trying to just add that to our offerings, which is why Tom mentioned myki, to bring them on, to at least introduce them to the community / find out more about them, because, you know, he expressed that frustration. And after speaking with myki right now, and then just kind of understanding what they were about, just made sense for, just as the MSPs, IT business owners in general, on how this service can help them, which is why we have them on the show today.
All right. And so, Richard, let's take it back to you, and let's talk a little bit about, we know that obviously people are using dumb passwords. They're, for whatever reason, they're still using sticky notes. There's a lot of bad password practice out there. But what does myki do, especially for the MSP, that can make their lives easier so that this is something they can implement to their client base?
I think we do a couple of things really well. I think, and Paco mentioned it, and you've all mentioned it, I think, in one way or another. But giving you that one portal to manage your own business internally first. So first and foremost, doing that password management internally yourselves is good hygiene, because again, a lot of MSPs I've come across, and they're using a multitude of systems, or they've inherited something, or they've grown up with Excel and all that kind of stuff. So we give you that foundation internally, just to make sure that you're building a strong foundation yourself. So, and even if you're prospecting, I mean, obviously here in Europe, we get a lot more of it with regards to compliance. But you look in the US, there's a lot of compliance coming, depending on what the state is. Local government, they're implementing compliance. And if you look at any compliance, it always says, passwords. Make your passwords longer and stronger. If you can, implement 2FA. If you can, implement a password manager. But the fact that we're giving MSPs those 3 tools as such in one platform to not only manage it themselves internally, but then show their clients, this is how we do it internally. This is how we keep ourselves secure. This is how we hide passwords from our administrators. We create automated logins for websites that they visit. We keep an eye on the passwords. So if we see anything that's weak or reused or old or at risk because it's out in the dark web, we can highlight that. So giving you those tools to be proactive around it. So not only can you build a strong foundation internally, but then you can take that to your business customers as well. I think that's the critical piece, actually sitting with them and saying, look, you've been managing it long enough yourselves. Employees, they shouldn't be managing access to business systems. As a business, you got to take that back in-house, and we're going to help you do that. And we're going to use myki, we say, as an example, to be more proactive around automating that login, making passwords longer and more complex, hiding them from the end user so they can move away from knowing what passwords are. So it's having that conversation. We're giving you the tools to have that conversation with your end users. And as Paco said, there's a revenue opportunity there as well, because a lot of MSPs haven't owned that password side of the stack. I mean, I talk to MSPs every day, and I ask them, what do you do? We're the IT department for our end users. And I go, okay, well, if you're the IT department, why aren't you owning the complete stack and the password side of it as part of that stack? So, again, just taking up that ownership, making it more secure. It's good for them. It's good for you. Even just automation, that whole service desk, I had one guy recently where 42% of his password or his service desk tickets over a 3-month period were password resets. Just helping you save your business money it's a good opportunity as well.
So kind of one of the things I think about, and people will do this all the time. I've never done this. We talked about applications. We talked about sometimes when you're signing up for websites and you have all these passwords. I probably manage, just for my own self personally, probably around 300 separate passwords.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no way that I could do that internally myself. I have to use something. My Excel spreadsheet just wouldn't go as far as I needed it to. So I needed to kind of upgrade that and change. But a lot of times people will see these logins where it goes, hey, if you want to be a part of our application or our service, and obviously this is probably more on the consumer side, but just use Facebook or Google. Either way, you can sign in, and I've never done that. I always go, no, I'm going to make a separate actual login for this particular site, so that if anything ever happens, I can obviously change that on the fly and save myself the heartache of having anything tied to any of my accounts. Because if Facebook or Google gets attacked, they've got that password, they've got that now that linked into those other sites.
Yeah, and to be honest, that's a really good point, but also it goes back to, I think, as well, how myki came about, because there's been a lot of debate recently, especially the whole Facebook privacy, and folks are just asking the question, do I actually need to keep all of my keys and my secrets in the cloud? Is there a way to keep them offline? And that's what myki does really well. We keep your secrets and your keys and your password offline. We don't store any data belong to you, belong to your users, anywhere. Everything is done on across a peer-to-peer network, leveraging the local device. But also, again, it goes back to, I suppose, the opportunity with MSPs is to help the businesses that are managing do it better. But also with myki, one of the tools that we give you is that we can not only show you ways to help them manage their business life better, you can actually deploy myki as a personal password manager as well. And we actually separate the databases out. So it's two separate databases, one for business, one for personal. The MSP doesn't actually control or manage the personal, but it's just something that we do, So I think there's a good value add for MSPs to help folks, because end users are starting to say as well, I don't want everything in the cloud. If Facebook gets breached, you got access to everything. So separating it and keeping it offline is it's going to be a good practice.
Very well. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and John and Paco, after that, if you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to chime in with any of your questions about myki or anything that we're talking about, or if you want to add to, feel free. Our show today is brought to you by BusyBench. Remember when running your business was simple? BusyBench sure does. Really? Do they? Wouldn't it be nice to quickly create a repair ticket, generate an invoice with a single click, and manage thousands of customers completely free of charge? That sounds like a good deal. BusyBench thinks you will enjoy adding an unlimited number of customers, invoices, estimates, and inventory items so much you might forget we have paid for features too. But don't worry, when your business grows and you need things like SLA alerts, payment processing, and recurring subscriptions, BusyBench will be with you there every step of the way. Turn a ticket into an invoice with a single click. I like that. If you've added inventory items to a ticket, they will be added to the invoice as well. Make it simple. I like it. The new invoice module allows you to track when a customer opens an invoice and determines when it was viewed. Additionally, customers can pay that same invoices online. Manage your assets with predefined metrics and customization options. Easily track everything from customer serial numbers to logon passwords and device details from a single location. Receive daily digests recapping all of your activities, such as tickets created, invoices generated, and payments received. Go to busybench.com and start your free account today. When you decide to upgrade, use the offer code PODNUTS for 30% off the life of your account. Right. So let's talk a little bit more about password management. First of all, John or Paco, do you guys have any questions about what we've talked about thus far?
Not directly on that. I do have a question on a feature that makes myki very interesting, but I can wait till later if you want me to.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Before you burst, man.
All right. So, Richard, one of the claims to fame of myki is that you guys don't store any of our data.
No.
Which is freaking fantastic for compliance, because then that really makes compliance non-existent.
Yeah.
So obviously there is an awesome list of all the password managers, myki seems to run on everything. I think I see there's one for DOS 622 here. There's a myki plugin. No, not really, but literally everything else for Mac, Debian Linux, Firefox, every browser ever created for man, iOS and Windows. But I'm assuming that means not that this is a component that's missing, that there's not a website I log into like with LastPass, which would show me all my passwords. And I would never manage my passwords on the web because they're not out there. They're locally only on my devices, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make that clear because I think that's a really special feature of myki, that you must be encrypting the data on the device and somehow syncing it to all the devices.
The browser extension, so nothing is stored on premise or on cloud servers. All the data is shared in a peer-to-peer in an encrypted manner. So if an end user has the browser extension and the update password on the device, it creates a talk, basically says, hey, I've got an update, and then that update gets applied to any of the other devices that it's deployed on. So very seamless and very secure. So there's no man in the middle attacks or anything like that, because everything is encrypted. But again, we don't have it, and even in that during that session, we still don't see that data. So yeah.
Very cool. Then the only thing I see that you log into on the actual physical website is the team login. And what is that, Richard?
Team log. Well, that's just so that's more. Sorry. Well, the team one basically is geared towards smaller sites, smaller teams. So I suppose if I share the DNA or the backstory more. So myki is approximately 5 years old. We actually started life as a consumer product. So we've got nearly 500,000 users globally at the moment, with about 2 million endpoints. So very big in the gaming world. The whole 2FA and passwords for Fortnite. And it was actually a gamer that posted in Reddit on the MSP channel, who actually turned out to be an MSP as well. And he pretty much listed out, here's everything that I find to be a challenge with passwords and password today. Being an MSP, I need to have a portal that I can see all my clients. I need simplified billing. I need monthly billing, or the facility to be able to bill monthly. So they were kind of some of the basics. And basically, Antoine, our CEO, went off and investigated the market and actually realized, we actually could do something really good for the MSP space. So we spent 2018 developing the platform, which was launched in November 2018. So myki for MSPs is really, really new. And basically the team was geared towards end users, but 99% of our focus is on at the MSP side of our business. So over the next kind of 12 weeks, you'll see a big revamp on our website and more information, more content geared around MSPs and helping MSPs to educate end users around password management and 2FA and just being more secure. So Teams is just a slimmed down version of the MSP offering.
One of the
Very
things
cool. Thanks.
One of the things I really like is that we talk about this one portal, which obviously a lot of the other ones do not have. And so that, because I think from our standpoint, and guys, tell me if you disagree, but I think it's when we think about managing passwords for ourselves, that's hard enough. But when we think about managing passwords for our clients, that's where I would rather stick a fork in my eye than do that, because it is such a monumental pain in the butt. But I think myki is solving some of those problems with having that portal where you can manage, you can help your client base actually be managed so you can take care of them on a more easy basis.
And that's actually a critical point. It's actually being that administrator and making, not only making it longer and stronger, but actually hiding it from the end user as well. So to start taking down the path of, I'm saying this very lightly now, but passwordless, so that when they go to a Twitter or a Facebook or a business site that they're logging into, that username and password just gets auto-filled. So they just move away from understanding what it is. And then even, for MSP, it's just a simple thing. With a temporary engineer, but he's been here for 6 months and he's had access to, every client site, and now he's left. And I don't know whether he's got the keys to the kingdom, or, people are scrambling around changing every, password for every site, and etc. So the fact that you can actually hide that information, create temporary groups or whatever you want to do, but just hide that information. Those days have been worried that if temporary worker leaves, did he have the keys to the kingdom? So a lot of that we're helping MSPs, do that now today. And even our roadmap, a lot of our roadmap moving forward is built around feedback from MSPs. We had a guy recently who was saying, like when we create a separate portal per client, when you create a new client, so that multi-tenancy, etc. And he was saying, okay, you're making me the administrator by default, but I've actually got 5 engineers, and I'd love if you can actually automatically put each engineer in as an administrator. And we're like, actually, you know what? That's a bloody good idea. So we're looking to implement that at the moment. So the community, the MSP community is really, really important to us for not just the product today, but that roadmap moving forward as well.
And when you say roadmap moving forward, obviously it sounds like you guys have you're making a splash in the community, and it seems like you're really kind of, digging in and going, okay, we're going to make this the best product for MSP focus. I guess the other thing too is a lot of times, some of the things we look at in the community is being, channel friendly. In other words, not ever trying to, undersell us as the value added reseller or whatever it used to be called. So that those are kind of nice things that we see out in the community, that we enjoy those customers or those vendors that are actually doing the right things to take care of us, and obviously, get paid at the end of the day, but also to make our lives easier. And I guess that's what we really look for.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's a big focus for us, is pretty much 100% channel focused. So, it's going to be, and that would grow over time. As I said, we're the new kid on the block. We've only gone 2 events so far. We've got another bunch of events that we're going to this year in the US and elsewhere. And it's just to get in amongst that community more,
Paco, when you think about password management and what you're going to do for your client base, what are some of the things that you have been looking for, or have you even been, up until this point, have you even tried to look for a solution that would help your client base, or help you manage your client base, I guess would be the better, because really it's really all about you.
Yes, it's always about me. And I was looking for 2 forks to stick in my eye to be able to handle all this. But no, I mean, we've always talked about it, where we've always been looking for a solution, at least for myself. And unfortunately, some of the MSP vendors that are out there have a version of what we were looking for, but either it wasn't a full password manager like what we've been trying to find that was, channel only specific, or it was, they do have it, but you have to buy their whole suite of product and have this additional piece to it. They didn't have the password manager in general. I think when Tom told me about myki, when I was looking about it, the multi-tenancy is one of the big factors there. And another thing that I think is really cool is the fact that, and Richard, correct me if I'm wrong, that it's brandable as well. So the fact that you can have your own brand on this password manager, if you truly want to adopt this into your own stack and make it that it's you, with all the integrations, with all the systems, browsers, and the fact that it's going to be under your own branding, is basically a key thing for a lot of us that are trying to adopt this into your stack, especially for password management and trying to tackle the problem of password management.
Now, Richard, I have to ask this question too. So, as far as, do you guys see yourselves as integrating with any other products out there, like any RMM tools or stuff like that in the future?
Oh, absolutely.
I know.
Yeah. Go on.
Everyone wants to answer at once. I know.
No, I know this one. Come on, you don't go to. I mean, I'm doing some show prep. Paco and I were reviewing the blog, which is pretty cool, over on the myki site, and links for all the stuff we talk about are in there. But I see they're already with Autotask. They have a nice Pulseway integration. If you guys use Auvik and know what Auvik is for network management, they integrate with that. Richard, what are the other ones that I'm missing?
IT Glue. Synchro is the one we're missing at the moment, but hopefully that will come shortly. And again, it just goes back to myki. A key kind of, I suppose, roadmap for us is that we become that credential hub, so that if we see credentials being updated, not only will we store them and manage them, but actually apply that update across your MSP stack, so we enhance your workflow. So whether it's Autotask, Data, SolarWinds, you name it, we'll eventually integrate with pretty much everything that's in the MSP space, in the RMM, PSAs, documentation management, and then the auxiliary, the Auviks of the world as well.
Very cool. Well, I like it.
And one of the other cool things that we kind of breezed over that I think is really important for when you want to. Let me start over a little bit. I think you take on a little bit of liability, and is with everything that we do when we store information about our clients. Having the privilege to do that also brings on the responsibility associated with that. And when you dig into the FAQs about myki and all that, one of the things I really like, besides that compliant aspect of them not having access to any data, is that if you have a team of techs that work for you, they have a very nice system of privilege levels, and levels in there that like you can assign a tech just to one client, so that if you give a tech a user account under here or an account under, he can only see specific accounts under your MSP account, so that you're not giving every tech in your organization every password to everything for all of your clients. So it's really important when you think about that sort of thing. If you're going to start managing passwords for your customers, which one of your techs or administrative staff has access to that, and also assigning administrators to your customers and what they need to have access to. Because a business owner may not want every user in a customer site to have access to all that data as well. So if you read through the FAQ, and there's links in the show notes to all this, they have a really nice privilege level and governance of that, of how they do that. So I thought that was a really key feature as far as being MSP friendly.
Also, logs as well. So we give you a complete log trail as well. So not only for your users internally or techs, we can show you all those logs, but also the end user side of it as well. We can show you client logs. So if somebody's been audited for HIPAA or whatever the compliance is, and somebody needs access to see who's who's logging in, we can give you that information as well. So
that's awesome.
I like that. Man, that makes life so simple, doesn't it? Holy cow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And also the 2FA as well. I know we spoke about it, but it's probably the fastest growing part of the MSP business that we're seeing at the moment. I had one guy recently, he had 6 apps to manage 2FA, 6 2FA apps on his phone to manage 250 endpoints across, I think it was 18 clients that he had. And he was like, okay, just the fact that myki can manage that as one system, because we're a fully fledged 2FA authenticator, so you don't have to have Google, you don't have to have Microsoft, additional apps. We can manage it all as one. And also, even if you look at the vendor space, data, webroot, they're all mandating now that you have to have 2FA turned on for your partner login. So the fact that we can actually not only do that login, but share that access as well. So if you've got 10 techs in your team and they all need access to data or webroot or wherever the vendor is, you can actually manage it as a shared 2FA setup. So I think that's, again, we're looking at ways to help you with your workflows. That's ultimately what we're doing. Keep it more secure, private, but also automate as much as we can for you.
Very good. I like it. All right. So what other things, Richard, have we not talked about as far as what things, obviously we've talked about some of the big hitters that myki can do for the MSP space and, help us in our businesses. Is there anything that we've glossed over or really haven't dug into yet?
To be honest, again, I think it comes back to just the basics, the foundations, and whether it's myki or it's another password manager, just actually starting to do those basics or have that conversation. The fact that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is still the most deployed password globally for end users, for business and personal. MSPs, I think you got to spend more time talking about, okay, passwords, by default, it's got to be longer, it's got to be stronger. If we've got 2FA, turn it on, and if you can implement the password manager, again, if it's not myki, they're the kind of basic steps to create a better foundation around that client site. I think obviously myki will give you the tools to go beyond that and make it more proactive as opposed to just being a static password manager. The fact that we help you with that, creating that better security around any particular environment, because again, one of the things that we do, we provide you with policies. So not only can we give you the password management, not only can we do the 2FA, not only can we do the dark web scan, because we've got an API into Have You Been Pawned that we check once every 7 days. So if we see anything on the breach report, we highlight that as being at risk. But we also have policies, so you can put a policy wrapped around an individual or a site or a city or a county. So we've won a geolocation. And basically, if you've got a client that's got an office and he says, okay, we don't invoice outside this city, you can literally draw a map, a line around that city, and anybody trying to access from outside that will alert you to that activity. So we're making it more proactive, and we're giving you the tools to make it more secure ultimately. So
that's awesome. That's a great idea. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I like it. All right, let's go ahead and we're going to take another quick break, and then we'll kind of go back into our main topic. Our show today is brought to you by Untangle Next Generation Firewall. It's designed to provide your small to medium business customers with the easiest, most cost-effective solution for network security. Untangle is the fastest way to add cybersecurity to your service offerings. We've taken enterprise-grade security and put it into a platform that makes it easy to get started risk-free. There's no steep learning curve with Untangle. Instead, you'll get a browser-based dashboard that lets you see the status of your managed networks at a glance. You'll enjoy on-the-box reporting included at no extra cost, plus customizable alerts that integrates easily with apps like PagerDuty and VictorOps. Make it simple to stay on top of any incidents that do occur. Untangle NG Firewall not only protects your clients with gateway antivirus, spam blocking, and intrusion prevention, but also gives you control over traffic at the application level with web content filtering, app control, and full SSL inspection. You also get WAN optimization features like balancing, failover, and bandwidth control. Whether you need VPN options or a captive portal to secure your Wi-Fi, Untangle NG Firewall has everything you want in a single solution. With lots of freebies like centralized management with zero-touch provisioning and a cloud threat intelligence scan for a second layer of defense included at no extra cost. There is no better choice than Untangle for getting visibility into and control over network traffic, helping your clients safely connect to the internet for their business-critical applications. Visit untangle.com/podnuts today to get your free no-obligation trial of NG Firewall and save 15% on any purchase with promo code PODNUTS. All right, so let's go back into, so John, what
Wait.
things are you awake? What things do you want to know about myki, or what things haven't we touched on yet that you feel is important?
Well, I really think we touched on the differentiators for their product. The nice thing is they have a fantastic YouTube page, which actually has a lot of interesting videos on it. They have a lady on there that does a really good job of explaining, just a lot of interesting topics that also might be shareables to clients when I look at them. But the other thing you might want to look at is they have great videos on just about every feature in the myki platform for how to add an account, how to remotely log out, how to pair myki with your browser, all this kind of stuff. So they got some really nice things there. And they also have, I'll put the link in there too, where there's a full demo of the product there as well. So I'll put that link in the show notes as well.
Awesome. Paco, same question to you.
So I've actually gone through the demo with Richard, so I've got quite a few of the questions answered for there. And yeah, just more interested on, I know they got a lot of things coming up on the roadmap, so some integrations with RMM that I'm using, or PSAs, I should say, along with some other tools that they got going on. But yeah, no, I mean, all the offerings, and I think the biggest piece for me, and I think for other IT business owners, was just that multi-tenancy and the brandable for some that just don't want 15 million different icons on their tray and having their brand on there for it.
Very good.
We also we've got a 30-day trial as well. So if anybody that's listening to the podcast wants to connect with you, reach out to me. Share my details if you wish. But we've got a 30-day trial that folks can see it firsthand themselves as well.
Sounds good. Now, Richard, let me ask you a question. So starting from the beginning, if somebody were to just get into password management, how easy or how fast do you think somebody could actually get something started using something like myki?
To be honest, I think, the guys that I've seen that have been most successful are the guys that have actually implemented it internally and built their security practice around myki internally, and then they basically become the case study or the reference site to the prospects or the clients. Obviously, I think most guys that are listening here would always have 1, 2, or 3 clients that are the go-to clients to test new services with. So that's always going to be good. But I think internally, just the fact that we give you those tools to be able to go and show this is how we make ourselves more secure, I think they're the ones that we're seeing the most success with. And you literally can be up and running today and out talking to clients tomorrow and onboarding clients tomorrow as well, if you wish, because even if you go to our website, the app is actually free for life. So a lot of MSPs use the app to actually prospect or talk to clients, go, look, use the app for a couple of days, see what you think. And then when you're ready, I'll come back and sit down and show you how we'd make it, how we'd bring you into our managed service offering and how we'd help you to be more proactive on a regular basis. But yeah, you could be up and running within a few days.
The other good thing is they have a lot of the import tools that like other providers do. So if you're planning that dreaded switch, which a lot of time can be painful, it appears from talking to Tom, who came over from LastPass, the process was pretty seamless.
Yeah.
Oh, nice to hear. Okay, very good. Yeah, that's always the inputting of information from one product to another is always going to be your stopping point for a lot of people. And when companies make it a seamless transition, you got to like that.
Oh, we've got it all. I mean, you can LastPass, Bitwarden, 1Password, Passport, and IT Glue. Pretty much the majority of them are there at the moment. And then you also have the manual option and CSV. So there's a multitude of ways that we can help you on that import process.
Hey, Richard, can you devolve or reveal any of the MSP pricing? I'm not familiar with it. I know you have a tiered level or how that works.
Yeah, so it's basically a tiered, it's a pooled tiered system. So you as the MSPs who were licensing, so where you deploy the licenses up to you. It starts at $3.60 per user per month for a license for the first 100 users. And then when you get over that, it decreases to $3. So the more users you bring on board, your backend cost keeps coming down. So if you're billing, let's just say, for example, you're billing an end user $5 per user per month, and your cost is $3.60, that's a 28% margin, and then it keeps rising. So if you end up with 1,000 users on the system, your backend cost is going to be $2 per user per month. But at $5, you're up to a 60% margin. There's a good margin in the product. Because what seems to be the norm at the moment is that most of the enterprise kind of offerings are at that $8 mark per user per month, but it's billed yearly in advance, and there's no margin for the MSP. So again, because we don't have infrastructure, we're able to keep our pricing down and let you make margin. So I think that's the important bit as well, when you're building out a service.
Very nice. Thank you.
John, we're probably getting to the point, I would imagine, it seems like here in the near future, where password management is no longer going to be an option with all the compliance things that we have to do, especially here in the US.
Well, I'm of my opinion, what did they say? I have to keep my hands in my pockets so I don't become violent because customers, especially employees, when they don't have any vested interest or they don't perceive any vested interest, they use the same username and password on everything. Typically when I have a problem with the client, when I get, and it's always the business owner, how it works, that his email's hacked, and then it's like, well, what happened here? What's going on? And we do a little investigating. We sit down together, and he's used the same email address and password for everything. And his Bob's Workout app that had no security, that was written by some cousin of his neighbor's uncle, got hacked and by some hacker. And now the hacker's logging into every site that he's ever logged into because he's using the same username and password. That's usually the most common way I see it go down with my clients. So more and more and more, and back to your question about customers using password managers, usually what I have when I try to implement one at a client is I have a lot of initial resistance. And then eventually what I see happening is customers realize, oh, this is actually making my life easier because it's autofilling the passwords on the site they go to. Easy to look up there's not Post-it notes all over. They don't lose the password, blah, 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 blah. If Kim in accounting updates the password, Barb in administration gets the update, that sort of thing.
Yes, it is a lot easier. I guess it's always the initial putting it together that makes your life kind of difficult or seemingly difficult. Again, you prepare today so you can have an easier life tomorrow.
But it is one of the few where I actually often do see that aha moment when they actually get that, oh, yeah, this is better.
I like
really
it.
Better,
Yeah. And that's it, because even if I look at it from a personal standpoint, one of my passwords I have at the moment, it's 180 characters, number, symbol, sequences. But probably the first time in my adult IT life, you could literally take me outside and somebody can hold me against the wall and go, give me your passwords. And I go, genuinely, I don't know what they are. And that's a good position to be in. And I think that's the conversation that the MSPs, you got to start having with the business owners that you're dealing with. That okay, employees have been managing it too long. It's your business. We've got to help you with the business. We're going to make it more secure. And this is one of the areas that we can do it. And it's it's a couple of bucks a month, so it's not a huge investment. Obviously, if you've got a team of 100 people, it's a bit of a bigger investment. But again, it's about security. It's about making making it harder for the bad guys to get in and take your data. There has to be a good conversation to be having with folks,
Yeah, and I don't think that the price is definitely not out there compared to other services that are in the industry as far as is a fair price. Obviously, there's things that are infrastructure and things that need to be not only updated but taken care of over time. And anyways, I was going to ask Paco. So as far as obviously this is something you started looking into. And does this seem like something that you're going to be able to take to your customers and go, listen, this is something I'm telling you right now. This is something you need to do because we always love the carrot and stick approach. Except most of the times, I would rather use a stick instead of the carrot because nobody likes carrots apparently. But anyways, do you feel that this is going to be something you can kind of take to your clients and have them understand that you're trying to make their lives easier and it's only costing them a little bit, but in the long run, I guess if there's a data breach or anything like that, it's going to cost them a lot more money, all the way up into even things like, I don't know, going out of business.
So yes,
long-winded question, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I mean, so kind of part of the whole, gathering with like-minded business owners, so I have a bunch of things that I got to get done through my list. So this is actually going to be part of my identity management campaign that I'm going to be doing. So essentially this is where I look into controlling the actual environment. So what's going to replace Active Directory, what's going to go ahead and replace password management, what's going to replace, how can I get total control on being able to not only assist my client, but also provide them the best opportunity of security when it comes to MFA, Active Directory, or just local accounts and controlling that, policies along with password management. So yes, this is something that I will be introducing to them one way, shape, or form, that hey, this is what's going to happen. And myki being one of those vendors that I've been looking into on offering that solution, this will be a phased approach that will eventually happen.
Very good. I like it. All right, we're going to talk about one more thing. And what I want you all three to do is go ahead and gather any lasting thoughts you have about password management before we get on out of here. But if you like the information that we're sharing with you today, I encourage you to support this show by going to patreon.com/computer repair podcast. And I want to thank our newest Patreon supporter, and that is Alfred Conlon. Appreciate that, Alfred. And I want to thank all of our Patreon supporters for your continued support. What that does, it's about $1 a show. There's anywhere between, I don't know, depending on whether it's summer or not, 2 to 4 shows a month, maybe even sometimes 5. So $2 to $5 a month. Basically, we'll get you into the secret Facebook group where you can share with like-minded individuals like yourselves and learn from each other, and also participate in giving information to those that need it, because good questions always come up. And the one thing John says all the time, and I quote him all the time, one of these days I'm going to steal it and say that I started saying it. The one thing I know for sure is I don't know everything, and we're all in that same boat. So it's a good place to learn in a safe environment where you will not be made fun of, no matter how simple your question is, unlike other places, which we won't mention here. But anyways, if you go over to patreon.com/computer repair podcast and sign up today. All right. So I think what I'm going to do is, Paco, I'm going to kind of go in reverse order here. And then if you have any questions or anything like that, or any comments or anything that you want to mention about password management, this is your time to shine.
Nope. Basically just, you have to look into doing some type of password management on essentially you are the guide for your clients. You're not the hero for your clients. You're the guide for their clients. You guide them to what they need to get done. So password management, although it's a very important subject, is something that a lot of us don't want to tackle, but it is something eventually we will, because if we don't do it, our customers will go to us about it if something happens to them. So something you want to look at a lot sooner rather than later.
Very good. And John, any lasting thoughts or questions for you, or something we haven't touched on today?
Well, my last question would be about myki to Richard. Just on Richard, in the myki app, and this is going to be readily apparent that I haven't downloaded it and played with it yet, since I'm going to ask this question. But inside there, like the password manager I currently use has some reporting that I can do that reports on exposed passwords or reused passwords, weak, unsecured. I'm assuming myki has all those types of features in it as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
So we'll give you that on the individual level in the app, and then in the MSP side of it, we'll give you that internal view across your internal organization, and then each client site as well will give you those stats as well.
Man,
That's
I like
awesome.
that. Wow, that is awesome.
Well, that's the powerful thing, really, there when you can peer in and help your clients secure themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, 1234 is a stupid password. Stop using it.
Yeah. Actually, somebody else told me that they went back to somebody and said, you got to change from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They said you need to change it, and they changed it, and they went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hash. They said,
it's not as easy to control the, especially with as much Active Directory nowadays. It's not as easy to control the password schemes that we were able to enforce years ago. So yeah, definitely that stuff needs to come back for sure.
Again, Azure, so we've an integration with Azure. So if you import Azure to myki, with one click, we can update every single password and make everyone, 180 characters, numbers, symbols, sequences, at one touch. So we're giving you those tools as well to get back to those days of more granularity.
I guess before I give you your last couple minutes here, let me ask one more question. When you're thinking about passwords, we all run into this problem at some point, and do you see maybe that this problem might go away in the future because of breaches and things like that? But a lot of sites will only let you put in a certain number of characters. They actually limit you, and some limit you like a lot. Are you seeing that starting to go away as you guys are looking at different sites, or is it still kind of prevalent?
It's still there, but I mean, obviously, Microsoft recently unleashed, releasing their hold on it, and that you could only, I think it was 8 or 12 characters. I know they've allowed it to be longer and more complex. I think more and more people are going to adapt that, because no matter what folks say, right now passwords aren't going anywhere, and if anything, it's growing. The number of systems that are out there, everything is in the cloud. People have access to so many systems, so passwords aren't going anywhere anywhere soon. But I think what we need to do, especially the MSPs, you need to start taking control of it. You need to be sitting down and actually becoming that administrator. If you're owning that IT stack, own the actual whole IT stack, not just bits of it, because the business probably better than they do as well, especially when it comes to the infrastructure and everything else. So if you can help them make that more secure, that's going to reduce. You look at the at-risk and from the dark web or old passwords. The whole policies change passwords every 6 months. The reason that grew was because people weren't changing passwords and keeping them weak. So if we can help change that, we're going to reduce those risk factors dramatically from day one. So I think that's the opportunity.
Very good. Now, Richard, last thing, is there anything that maybe we haven't talked about? I know we talked a little bit about the dark web. I know you mentioned it a couple times. Is there anything that people probably need to know about that out in the industry today?
No, I mean, again, it's just we've an integration. We have it been pawned, so we integrate. In essence, you can think of myki as kind of a threefold platform. Not only will we help you manage passwords, not only will we do your 2FA, but we can actually do your dark web scanning as well. So if we see something out as part of a breach, we can highlight it. But again, if you're starting to move to longer and stronger passwords, that threat vector starts getting smaller and smaller, because most hackers will look for the easy stuff, not the difficult stuff. So let's make it more difficult for them. You know?
Very good. I like it, man. You guys are hitting it on all cylinders. That's awesome. All right.
Thank you very much.
With that being said, Richard, if people wanted to find out more about you or more about myki or more about you, how could they basically contact you?
Absolutely. So, hit on our website, at, myki.com, and you can actually open a chat discussion with us from our website. But my address basically is just richard@myki.com. So if anybody wants to email me, more than happy for them to reach out. But again, hit us on our website or just come to me directly, and we'll engage with anybody. You know?
Awesome. Well, great
And
having you on.
obviously, if they mention that they heard us on the podcast and what have you, we'll make sure that we provide them with some additional incentive.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. All right. And Paco, if people want to find out what you are up to, what would they do?
They would attend TechCon Unplugged September 20th to the 22nd in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Or they can always listen to me over at Tech Life over on the Podnuts Network.
And John, Mr. Dubinsky, where would people find you?
You're going to find me at TechCon Unplugged convention in September here in Grand Rapids. If you live locally, I'll drive over with you.
Nice. Shameless plug. All right. Appreciate everyone coming on and sharing today, and really appreciate Richard coming on and sharing myki with us and letting us know exactly how the product works. And definitely, I would encourage everybody out there, check it out, because this is something that you're definitely going to need. And it sounds like I said before, you guys are hitting all the things that we need in our businesses.
Thank you.
All right, come join us live for the Computer Repair Podcast every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern over at podnuts.com/CRP Live. Join in on the conversation by hanging out in the chat room. You can also send an email to podnuts@podnuts.com or leave a voicemail at 734-335-1000. I want to thank everyone for listening and subscribing to the show. We'll see you next time on the Computer Repair Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.